Some location
news with Gary Liberatore and meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here on this Tuesday morning. I'm Gary Liberatore.
And I'm Storm Tracker 2 meteorologist Eric Gage.
And after those brief showers yesterday morning, what a day it turned out to be.
Yeah, looking beautiful outside, and I think after some of that wind from that front that we saw in the early afternoon, the humidity started to rise. It's feeling a bit more like late spring, early summer. But with that, of course, comes storm chances. It's that time of year. Here's a look at the latest conditions outside right now. Officially 52 at Griffiths, and as well as 52 in Hamilton, 54 in Johnstown and in Syracuse. See that fog reported there? Those thin cloud icons here. These are reports of fog, and it's driven in by one main factor: the dew point. We don't usually talk about it in the middle of winter time because it's so incredibly low that the feels-like conditions don't really play a factor. There's really no storms in wintertime too. So aside from maybe having the air feel a lot more dry than it is, dew points, again, not a factor in wintertime. But now we're starting to feel it. It's not a lot, but it's enough to cause some fog this morning. And as you look at the Yorkville Battery Live radar, we got some storms gobbling up some of that moisture out in western, I should say, out toward southern Canada. Not quite in western New York just yet. But as we head throughout the day today, what we look out to the west is a decaying MCS, or mesoscale convective system, organized cluster of thunderstorms that has since weakened but is expected to strengthen over eastern New York and western New England later in the day today. So you see here we have increased the risk to a level 2 out of 5 in the yellow zones here. We'll be diving into that risk here coming up in a few minutes. But again, today it's warming up rather quickly. We're in the 70s with some afternoon thunderstorms. We'll take a look at this window here and we'll prepare you for the day ahead coming up in a few minutes. Gary?
Eric, thanks. A parent who called 911 after...
This live look of downtown Cooperstown is brought to you by the Leatherstocking Credit Union.
Welcome back to Sunrise. Time now is 5:14, and here's a look at what you can expect in your forecast in a minute throughout your day today. We begin with a look at current conditions outside. Obviously a few clouds, some patchy fog, temperature 52 degrees. Dew point also at 52 degrees, making the air incredibly saturated this morning, allowing that fog to form. Yorkville Battery Live radar, right now it's quiet to our west. We've got some activity on the radar scans, a few showers, some thunderstorms outside Toronto, Canada. Now the time frame of this today, you're going to see here, some of the models I'll show you are going to be relatively uneventful. This is in the early afternoon here. Doesn't look that intense, right? Same thing for the evening, 5 to 6 p.m. However, a lot of other models, which I'll show here shortly, indicating some rather intense lines of storms going through. Now, keep in mind on a day like today, the risk is not high, but it's non-zero. So just make sure you're weather aware today. See that code right there in the bottom of your screen? You can scan that with your phone. QR code brings you to our app store. You can download our Storm Tracker 2 app, give you warnings for any events that happen today. Either way, we have a much more detailed breakdown of this risk throughout the day today coming up in that full forecast. Gary?
Eric, thanks. MVHS has installed a safe...
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everybody. On this Tuesday, we are following the arrival of a few storms this afternoon, and we've got to keep our eye on them, especially as they head their way east toward New England. We look at downtown Utica right now. It's a bit of a summer-like feel out there. You might have heard the peepers last night, and on top of that, it definitely feels a bit more on the humid side compared to the days past. Now, this is all driven in by some more warmer temperatures in the southwest, but notice out to our west, we have a not so notable, but still possibly severe MCS, mesoscale convective system, basically an organized cluster of thunderstorms. We see them on occasion in our area. Not every time we see storms, but they do take place this time of year. And you see here the risk zone is mainly in this yellow zone here out in the Great Lakes region, but then as it heads its way eastward, it's going to strengthen again as it heads east through New York State and into New England. More, at least in a lot more detail here, you can see the general vicinity of that compared to, say, Utica and the surrounding local counties. Now, the radar right now is rather quiet, but again, we're going to keep our eye to the sky throughout the day today. In fact, here's a look at one of our models. This is what I want to talk about when it comes to the inconsistency when it comes to MCS events. You can see right here, this is called the HRRR model, and this is basically a snapshot at 4:30. You got this line of some thunderstorms rolling through. The time frame is rather consistent, just the activity is rather inconsistent. Let's take a look at our in-house model here. You notice we have the arrival of some clouds, maybe even some rain as well, but overall it's relatively low in terms of any impacts. In fact, following that, it looks rather quiet as we head during the overnights, and then things look rather rainy as we start your day on Wednesday. So, what's the correct solution? Well, I can tell you this right now when it comes to impacts. The time frame will be between roughly 2 and 6 p.m. These are the variables with the severe weather risk. Instability, yet again, the defining factor. We have the MCS, the lift mechanism, we have the shear, we have the moisture. It's just the variability of the cloud cover and the sunshine today. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Again, make sure you're weather aware. Download that Storm Tracker 2 app by scanning the QR code on the bottom of your screen there. The best way to get any updates on warnings as they happen. We'll be watching the radar. This is the type of scenario as we enter severe weather season. I always want to kind of emphasize this as we enter this type of season, that these events sometimes produce no storms, sometimes produce several. But the best way to make sure you're informed is to have warnings sent right to your phone just in case they do happen. So
It's easy to do.
oh yeah,
Get the app.
Just scan it.
Yeah. Eric, thanks. Well, for years, a veteran in Ohio has sat on his porch each morning to wave at school buses driving by. Good morning once again, and thank you for joining us for this half hour. It almost seems like our winter is a distant memory, doesn't it? Maybe not, but Eric, we are expected to reach 70 degrees once again today, right?
Yeah, warming up, Gary. Certainly feels like the arrival of summertime today. Not only the temperatures, but the humidity as well. Here's a look at the latest conditions outside right now, officially in the 50s all across central New York. Some patchy fog forming as well, but overall it's a rather warm start to your day today. Certainly the dew point making it feel a lot more humid as well. Pretty much the return of it that we haven't really seen in quite a while. Yorkville Battery Live Radar, we are still seeing the arrival of some showers and storms to our west. These are expected to approach our area as we head into the afternoon. With that in mind, some of these storms could be on the stronger side. We're talking some stronger wind gusts and the typical severe weather risk associated with these types of systems, which are called MCSs, or mesoscale convective systems, basically a fancy term for an organized cluster of storms. These will arrive in the window between 2 and 6 p.m. today. However, not everyone could see a storm. It's one of those scenarios where they're a bit scattered in nature. So we'll basically plan out your day ahead coming up in a few minutes. But either way, a great tool to have as we enter the severe weather season is the Storm Tracker 2 app. You'll see it on the bottom of our screen during all of our weather casts, as well as, of course, right here you can scan it with your phone. Very important tool to have during this season, especially when warnings happen in the matter of a few minutes. So you got to download it there, and of course we have much more details on the weather today for you coming up shortly. Gary?
Eric, thanks. And don't forget, the Storm Tracker 2 forecast is never more than 10 minutes away each morning. The U.S. military
of downtown Cooperstown is brought to you by the Leatherstocking Credit Union.
Welcome back, everybody, to your photo of the day segment. This is a photo right here that was shared with us yesterday of a faint spring rainbow. And why don't you get a look closely at your screen here? You'll be able to see that faint signal here. And this was sent in from Kathy in Bridgewater. And it's a sign of a changing season. We don't get too often rainbows in wintertime, but more certainly than not, we see a whole lot more in spring and summer. So another sign of the changing seasons. This was, of course, an amazing submission. If you have one you'd like to share with us, go to WKTV.com/weather/pics. That photo and every photo every morning brought to you by GPO Federal Credit Union. Now, again, I'm mentioning it's certainly going to feel like late spring, early summer the next few days. We're in the 70s, but you'd still have some rain and storm chances. Of course, today, definitely some storm risk. We'll be tracking that for you coming up in a few minutes. Gary?
Eric, thanks. The city of Rome is getting ready to host the Great
Most dependable weather team. Here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everybody. Today we are tracking a few thunderstorms expected to arrive in the afternoon, but there's a lot more to that than just a simple thunderstorm forecast. Here's a look right now at downtown Utica. Rather warm, summer-like feel out there this morning. Temperatures in the 50s. However, to our west, we're seeing an approaching low-pressure system. This one as a categorization of an MCS, a mesoscale convective system. Basically here, just an organized cluster of thunderstorms. And we've got a couple of fronts here moving through, say, the lower peninsula of Michigan and the upper Midwest. In that zone, there is a level 3 out of 5 risk for severe storms out in this area here. Notice how the yellow zone, level 2 out of 5 risk, kind of fades away, then reorganizes here. That's basically the MCS weakening, then re-strengthening again in eastern New York and western New England. And we see here on the radar, we've got some activity out, say, in southern Canada, but not a whole lot here in New York State. It's going to change as we enter the time frame of roughly 2 and 6 p.m. And I want to show you guys a couple of models here. This is what's called the HRRR model. And notice as the arrival moves through, you got a band of some thunderstorms between right 4 and 5 o'clock. Now that's one model here. Our secondary model here, which is our in-house Skycast model, has that same thing moving through, this time at 1 o'clock. And it's not as intense. And it reorganizes south between 5 and 6. So you see the variability here. And it's all driven in by the amount of sunshine we could see in the atmosphere. So you see here the severe weather ingredients, otherwise known as SLIM, pretty consistent. The only inconsistencies, which are variable, is instability or thunderstorm fuel. Storms need to tap into instability to produce heavy rain, thunder, lightning, and you name it. Without that, there will just be a storm that fires up and then just fizzles out rather quickly. So that's what we're tracking today. Again, just a heads up, the time frame between 2 and 6 p.m. and along with that risk as well, just make sure you're weather aware. Download that Storm Tracker 2 app to have any warnings sent right to your phone. Now, Wednesday and Thursday, we've got a few scattered showers and downpours, mainly Wednesday morning. Some heavy rain to start. It does dry up Wednesday evening, so it's all about the time frame of this. I mean, probably a lot of you might have some nicer conditions to go out for that walk Wednesday evening than you do today, but either way, it's looking rather warm for the next few days, feeling rather summer-like, so get out and enjoy it when it's not raining out.
Yeah, maybe easier to plan for a walk than it is to golf for 2 or 4 hours, right? Eric, thanks. Well, this week, the Johnson Park Center in Utica wants people...
News with Gary Liberatore and meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. I'm Gary Liberatore.
And I'm Storm Tracker 2 meteorologist Eric Gage.
And again, after some brief rain showers yesterday, it turned out beautiful. Can we have 2 in a row?
Well, at least to start today, it's rather pleasant, dry, but we're dodging a few storms this afternoon. Yeah, I know. Let's take a look right now at the latest conditions here across central New York. Some fog reported in a lot of spots, mainly because of these temperatures in the 50s and the dew points right here also in the 50s. You factor those together, and when the dew points and temperatures are so close, you get the recipe for fog. Now, it's not entirely foggy. Some of you might see those low-lying clouds, but either way, you certainly feel the humidity in the air this morning. Might have even heard the peepers last night as well. Feeling like a return to summertime, right? Well, look at the radar. We've got some activity out to the west of Buffalo, outside Toronto, Canada, and some lightning taking place there as well. In fact, a good amount of it. Now, as we head into the late morning and early afternoon, we're going to see those temperatures begin to climb, allowing the possibility of storms to turn on the stronger side. Notice here, we've got a yellow zone, level 2 out of 5 risk that was just issued overnight. This is what we're expecting for the day today. Now, what does that mean? It means these storms now have a 2 out of 5 risk for turning severe. Now, it's not widespread. These are scattered. They're disorganized. It's not a very concrete time frame either way. 2 to 6 p.m. is the general idea of when these storms could fire up. We're going to track these throughout the next several hours during the day today. Highs are in the 70s with, of course, these storm risks. So, of course, download the Storm Tracker 2 app to have the latest warning sent right to your phone. We're going to break this down hour by hour for you coming up in a few minutes. Gary?
Eric, thanks. A parent who called 911 after seeing a threat on...
This live look of downtown Cooperstown is brought to you by the Leatherstocking Credit Union.
Welcome back to Sunrise on this Tuesday morning. Here's a look at your photo, or look at your forecast in minutes here on this Tuesday morning. We begin here with a look at the current conditions outside at Griffiths, 54 degrees. Cloudy conditions, a northeast wind of 3 miles an hour, and very high humidity, at least relative to that temperature. Dew point sitting at 54 degrees. Yorkville Battery Live radar for right now. Things are rather quiet, but to our west, we've got a few downpours, some thunder and lightning out west of Buffalo and in the Toronto area. And the time frame today of these storms look to arrive, say, between 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. You notice here a lot of these models we're going to show here are very inconsistent in the arrival time of these. These are the difficulties in forecasting MCSs, or mesoscale convective systems. Either way, you see here the risk zone, regardless of timing, is in this yellow zone right here, level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather. We're going to break down the differences in arrival time and everything you need to know for that forecast today coming up in a few minutes. Gary?
Those darn MCSs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Eric, thanks. MVHS has installed...
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everybody. On this Tuesday morning, we are tracking the arrival of a few storms this afternoon. Let's take a look right now at downtown Utica, where it's a bit, at least somewhat summer-like out there. Higher humidity, definitely feel in the air. Might have even heard some of the peepers last night and even in some spots early this morning. We're tracking, of course, some low pressure to our west. This is an MCS, a mesoscale convective system, organized cluster of thunderstorms. And they're producing at least some chances for severe weather out in this zone right here in the yellow. But it's actually weakening as it pushes its way into western New York, strengthening again as it heads towards eastern New York and western New England. In this time frame, these are where the storms could develop to be on the stronger side. Certainly a good amount of lightning there out in the shores of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. And as we head throughout the morning, again, that storm chance is going to push its way eastward. So we're going to show a couple of models here. First off, this is the HRRR. Just a fancy word for one of the models that we use. And this is the time frame of the arrival of these storms that roll through between, in this instance, 4 to 5. Now, as we look at our SkyCast, this is our in-house model here. And it might show something a little bit different. As you see right here, we have the arrival around 1 o'clock and heavy rain, not as strong of wind gusts. And in fact, the evening band that rolls through also rather uneventful. But we look at other models, it's a much different story. So when it comes to impacts today, there's not a very concrete time frame and location. That's why On days like today, we always mention to be weather aware. Of course, have that Storm Tracker 2 app handy for any warnings that do develop. Wednesday morning, thunder and lightning, some heavier downpours. Once that rolls through, we do dry up with even a better opportunity for sunshine as we head into Wednesday evening. But at least when it comes to severe risk today, we've got a lot of the parameters pretty much all set. Instability is the variable here when it comes to sunshine or cloud cover here. So because of that, that's why there's a lot of inconsistency in the arrival and the location of these storms. But nonetheless, the window today, roughly 2 to 6 p.m., give or take an hour or two, but just the variability that what makes these days so unique. And then following that, it's a bit rainy to start Wednesday. A few storms. It does dry up Wednesday evening. Temperatures remaining very summer-like heading into Thursday, eventually Saturday as well, but then we're cooling back down again early next week. We're in the 40s, in some spots even 30s, yeah, but it's that time of year. We've got some ups and downs, but we'll enjoy the warmth for this week.
Definitely enjoy those 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Eric, thanks. Well, for years, a veteran in Ohio had... Good morning once again, and thank you for joining us for this half hour. It almost seems a little like winter is a distant memory with the 70-degree temperatures we've been having. And Eric, we're expected to hit that mark again today, right?
Balmy, Gary. It's going to be very balmy this afternoon. In fact, it already feels rather humid out this morning. Temperatures to start your day today are in the 50s. We got some peaks of sunshine, mainly south of the Mohawk Valley, and on top of the warmish start to the day, you see here the dew points are relatively similar to the temperatures, meaning the air definitely feels a bit humid out. It's not certainly humid, but a dew point of 54, you kind of notice that humidity. Yorkville Battery Live radar. We look out to the west and we've got a decent amount of lightning along this band right here. In fact, 129 lightning strikes outside of the Toronto and Buffalo metropolitan area. Now, as we progress throughout the morning, that is going to weaken, but then re-strengthen again as it pushes its way into eastern New York and western New England. With that in mind, there is a severe weather risk for the time frame of the afternoon into the early evening. Strong wind gusts, biggest concern here. But with any severe weather event, there's always additional risks that will cross the bridge when we see those storms begin to form. But nonetheless, just make sure weather aware throughout the afternoon today. You see here the time frame of it, rather dry to start. Right around here, you can see, of course, those rain chances increasing. Now, not everyone could see a storm, but some spots will. It's the nature of these types of MCS systems here. We're going to dive into that. We'll have the latest trends and time frame of that storm potential for you coming up in a few minutes. Gary?
Eric, thanks. The U.S. military's blockade of Iraq.
Channel 2 is brought to you by Holland Farms Bakery in Delhi.
Welcome back to Sunrise on this Tuesday morning. Our photo of the day today brings us to the town of Bridgewater, and a great shot here of a faint spring rainbow. I'm going to zoom in here and see if you guys can catch it. It's not a very vibrant one because, of course, you do need a lot more sunlight to see some vibrant rainbows in central New York, but needless to say, it's one of the first rainbows all year long. So we're seeing that as a sign of what's to come here, the changing seasons and the signs pointing toward eventual warmer temperatures, which we'll be seeing today, obviously, but the overall trend to warmer temperatures and, of course, that summer-like feel in the air. This was sent in by Kathy. Amazing photo here. If you have one like this, like to share with us, go to WKTV.com/weather/pics. That photo and every photo every morning brought to you by GPO Federal Credit Union. Now, again, it's looking very summer-like the next few days. We're in the 70s, but we're going to be dodging some storms and downpours and rain showers. We'll be diving into the timing of those for you coming up in a few minutes. Gary?
Summer in April.
Oh, yeah.
Has a nice ring to it. Eric, thanks. Now open in
New York's most dependable weather team. Here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good morning, everybody. On this Tuesday, we begin on the warm side, humid side as well. See that humidity rise after yesterday evening. Some of you may have heard the peepers outside as well, a sign of that summertime air on the way. Now, in downtown Utica, we take a look outside, a bit cloudy to start, but it's a bit dry like yesterday morning, so almost a carbon copy of it. But today, we've got severe weather risk, which I'll show here momentarily. Here's a look at the latest radar and satellite to our west. So it's called an MCS, mesoscale convective system. This system here is not alarming, but it is tapping into some instability right now. And in the meantime, as it pushes its way eastward, it'll arrive into central New York. Now, this is the risk zone with that MCS out to the west. Now, as it pushes its way eastward towards, say, western New York, it weakens and then re-strengthens again as it moves toward eastern New York and western New England. This zone right here, you can zoom in and kind of see the zone in the slight risk or level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather. So what does that mean for us locally? Well, it means that once this front begins to move its way eastward, it's going to start tapping into some instability, if it's there, and begin to strengthen into some downpours, some storms, some gusty winds. But the key here is they have to initialize first. Here's a look at the SkyCast. Now, what I'm showing right now is a model called the HRRR. It's one of several models that we can look at to determine the forecast. And this right here has that band rolling through between 4 and 6 p.m. And you can see here some pretty heavy rainfall along that line. Now, as we progress throughout the evening, that rainfall tapers off. Now we look at our in-house model here, our SkyCast, see that band rolling through, a bit weaker than what the other one was showing you, but nonetheless, time frame at 1 o'clock. So about 2 hours earlier, in fact, some spots even 3 hours earlier. So you see the variability in the time frame, right? Well, this is why our window of conditions goes from 2 to 6 with the variability of a couple of hours. Now, in that window, it doesn't mean it's going to be storming all day long, but in that window, you might encounter a storm or two as they pass over you. In fact, you might not even see a storm at all. It's the joys of forecasting thunderstorms, right? Well, we head into Wednesday morning. We got a widespread heavy rain and lightning event rolling through. That'll end, and it's a pretty dry Wednesday afternoon on tap, highs in the 70s. So today, severe weather ingredients: slim, shear lift, instability, moisture. This is rotating winds in the atmosphere, lift, which is the MCS, thunderstorm fuel, and as well as thunderstorm fuel being moisture, rainfall fuel. And as you see here, everything's within range. Instability is the key here, like with most early season events. As we get towards summertime, then the variable usually likes to be the driving mechanism. But nonetheless, just to recap today, starting out dry, storm chances this afternoon between 2 and 6 p.m., give or take an hour or two. And once the fronts pass, the risk is pretty much done. Maybe a few more downpours, thunder and lightning early Wednesday. But the key here is just to remain weather aware. Storm Tracker 2 app, a great tool to have for any updated warning sent right to your phone. So we'll be watching the radar all day long. If anything looks suspicious, we'll let you guys know.
That's for sure. Eric, thanks. Well, fiber hasn't always gotten the recognition that it deserves.
With Gary Liberatore and meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Gary Liberatore.
And I'm Storm Tracker 2 meteorologist Eric Gage.
And you are earning your title right now, tracking some storms.
Yeah, it's that time of year. We're finally entering the storm season. And today, well, we got a couple we're looking at. Let's take a look at the radar scan. So I'm going to go back in time a little bit. I'm going to zoom in, so bear with me as I'm moving the camera around a little bit. Let's zoom in up to the north. There was a storm right here. This was a severe warning storm in Lewis County. It has since expired, and the storm has weakened a little bit. A lot of lightning up toward Watertown, the I-81 corridor in Jefferson County. We zoom out a little bit to the south, and the front is so far behaving rather quietly in this zone right here as it extends from, say, the Syracuse area all the way down into the southern tier near Allegheny County. All of that, not a whole lot of activity. So again, a lot of that storm forcing taking place to the north. Quite the difference in temperatures. We see here that heavy rainfall dropping those temps in Watertown to 58. It is a 74-degree afternoon at Griffiths. It is nearly 80 degrees in Syracuse, and it's still very warm out in a lot of western New York. So far today, it's shaping up to be rather summer-like. Look at this. The dew points are pushing near 60. That qualifies at 60 degrees as a humid day. So we're slowly approaching that. Still, though, this afternoon, the Slight risk has extended through much of the area now, a level 2 out of 5 risk, which again isn't a high risk, but it's enough to make sure you're weather aware today. Storm Tracker 2 app, a very useful tool, especially if you're not near a TV screen 24/7. Of course, you can see those warnings happen as they happen there on our app. So again, the time frame of this happening is between the 2 to 6 p.m. window here. Once that ends, it does quiet down overnight, but either way, we have a look at, in a lot more detail, the trend of this storm potential, who can see it, and how long these storms will last for you coming up in a few minutes. Gary?
Eric, thanks. Well, check this video out right here. A large fire is burning in
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today we are closely watching the arrival of a few storms approaching from the west, and with it, the potential for maybe some strong wind gusts, heavy rain, thunder, lightning. Downtown Utica, a view outside right now, we did see a decent glimpse of sunshine, at least the last few hours. Now clouds are rolling their way in again with the approach of a secondary line of showers. Now, to be fair, this line of showers rather weak. It did produce a good amount of lightning to the north. However, to the south, it's really fizzled out, not amounting to much, which is good news, depending on the situation here. And I'll explain why. So you see here, we're under a level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather. Severe weather ingredients, which I'll show here momentarily. Basically, everything is lining up except for the instability factor, which is something we closely watch when we have these early season severe weather events here locally. The system is expected to strengthen as it heads into eastern New York and western New England as we head into the next few hours. You can see it here. A lot of lightning up toward Watertown, heavy rain, a severe warning which has since expired in Lewis County, and a bit weaker in terms of any activity to the south. But we're going to closely watch it, because as long as there's no rain and the cloud cover is rather weak, the instability will likely arise. So we look here on the Skycast. First, let's take a look at one model. This is the HRRR, which still has a good idea of what we can be expecting, say, by 4:30 this evening. There's multiple rounds, or at least multiple chances of these downpours to take place. Our in-house model here is a little earlier when it comes to that initial line. This is at 1 p.m. today, passing over Utica, a bit heavier to the north, a bit weaker to the south, and highs in the mid to upper 70s. It's definitely a bit warm, a bit humid today. And of course, we got to be dodging a couple of these showers and downpours. A couple of them, again, could be on the stronger side. Then tomorrow morning, we got a round of some heavier rain, thunder, and lightning. Once that passes over us, we quiet down for much of Wednesday, and it does look rather pleasant and very summer-like by Wednesday evening. So I mentioned we're talking severe weather ingredients. What are the criteria today? Well, as always, SLIM. Remember that acronym here. Shear, lift, instability, moisture. Shear, the wind changing in the atmosphere, is within range. A lot of moving winds. We got lift. We have that forcing mechanism, that weakening MCS to our west. We've got plenty of moisture. Dew points pushing 60 degrees. Instability is the factor here, as with most early season events. So that plays a role in how today shapes up. Either way, it's one of those days where you got to remain weather aware. Probably could warrant a weather aware icon here, but nonetheless, just make sure you have a way to receive warnings in case they do happen. It's not a big concern today, but nonetheless, it is possible. Once that ends, the severe window, which is roughly between 2 and 6 p.m. today, things quiet down. A bit rainy to start tomorrow, but the big story here is that warmth that continues through much of this week. Still at 70-plus degrees by Saturday, Gary.
Yeah, instability.
Yes, that's the key.
Yeah, and James is even here just in case he has to break in this afternoon.
Yes, James is in this afternoon. Bill will be in this evening, so we've got team coverage throughout the day today.
Covered all day. Eric, thanks. Well, 2 U.S. sanctioned tankers Meteorologist Eric Gage joining us now, and you are watching some potential storms here right in our area right now.
Yeah, that's right. And the brunt of the lightning and thunder and whatnot are up to the north. Lewis County getting hit pretty good with a good lightning show up there.
Yeah.
We got, what was it, close to 150 you saw early lightning strikes?
Yeah, it switches, yeah.
Yeah, and here's a look at the latest scans right now. And you can see here quite a light show up in Lewis County heading toward Lowellville, probably on the fringe of West Leyden. Heading out toward, of course, the areas of Redfield and you name it, anywhere up in the Tug Hill Plateau. Definitely a good storm taking place. Now, as you head farther south, you kind of see the line that's forming along with it, and it's not really producing a whole lot of activity aside from that. So that's basically what we're dealing with right now. Now, as we head beyond this into, say, the mid to late afternoon, there could be some more activity to follow. We'll closely watch it, but for now, the brunt of the activity is to the north. Temperatures, because of that rain, have fallen down into the upper 50s up in Watertown. But look at here, 74 Rome, 78 Syracuse, pushing 80 in Ithaca right now. Same thing down in Poughkeepsie. Dew points even higher as well. We got officially a dew point of 62. That classifies as humid. Out in Rochester, cutting it close here in the comfortable category in central New York. Severe weather risk has been a bit more widespread based off of this morning. You see right here the extent of the level 2 out of 5 risk zone has gone a bit broader, encompassing all of central New York. But again, on a day like today, not a big concern. Just make sure weather aware of potential strong storms or two that fired up over the next few hours. Once the window of severe weather ends right around 6 p.m., it does quiet down tonight. We're in the 50s before more widespread rain arrives tomorrow morning. We're going to dive into the details of these storm risks today and what follows for the rest of the week coming up in that full forecast. Gary?
Eric, thanks. And this is part of that huge weather system that Watertown is seeing right now. This was yesterday in Minnesota, and it may look like a snowstorm, but it was actually a hailstorm. Over a dozen counties in southern Minnesota were under a tornado watch until 10 p.m. last night. A Texas congressman is stepping down as
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's meteorologist Eric Gage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today, make sure weather aware as we're tracking a MCS moving its way east to the area. Now, what is an MCS? I'll dive into that, plus the risks associated with the approaching system. Here's a look at downtown Utica. A few more clouds rolling in after a very sunny last few hours in the city itself and the surrounding areas. But here, we take a look at the radar and satellite. We got some busy conditions, although it's a bit quiet here locally. It's a much different story for our neighbors up in, say, the Tug Hill Plateau, up near Watertown, Lewis County, northern Herkimer County. A bit stormy and a good light show right now. Lots of thunder and lightning. This is all on the higher edge of this wobbly stationary front, of course, and on top of that, the MCS, or it's a mesoscale convective system, a fancy name for an organized cluster of thunderstorms. The reason why we're watching it is because they are expected to re-strengthen again as they push through the area into central New York, eventually eastern New York, and western New England. Now, we're on the fringe of it here locally, so that's why the concern is taking place today. Look at the radar here. See again, look at this. The activity is rather quiet here for now, but as we head into, say, the next few hours, things are going to get a bit more on the busy side, noticing the fact that this leading edge isn't producing a whole lot of activity. So what does that mean for you guys? Well, a couple of things. First, let's start out with one of our models here, the HRRR, which is doing the best job of indicating the arrival of these showers and storms. It's likely arrive between 4 and 6 p.m. today, and there's the general idea of where they're forming here. It's not widespread, not everyone sees them, but you can see the difference when we look at another model here, which has a lot of that rain rolling through in the early afternoon and nothing going in this evening, which goes to show you the amounts of variability with the data we have. Regardless, what I can tell you right now is the window of severe weather takes place from 2 to 6 p.m., give or take an hour or two. And in that time frame, there's a chance, not a certainty, for a storm to pass over you, and a chance, not a certainty, for that storm to turn severe. Basically, which I'll show here in a second, all driven in by multiple factors in terms of ingredients. By tomorrow morning, after a quiet overnight, we got around to some heavy rain, thunder, and lightning. Then that ends, and it does dry up with a relatively pleasant afternoon here across central New York. So again, back to those ingredients. See here, these are the 4 main ingredients in severe weather. These are all variables. Basically, once you have all of them, then severe weather is likely. Now today, we've got a good amount of shear, or change in wind speed and direction with altitude. We have a lifting mechanism. We have the thing that's forcing the storms to form. We have moisture. Instability, or thunderstorm fuel, is the factor here, and it's all largely dependent on cloud cover and who has seen rain so far. Now, with the lack of rain in the Mohawk Valley, that's certainly a possibility that these storms could form on the stronger side. But in full transparency, what I can tell you right now, there's no certainty as to where these storms form, but the fact is that they could form here. So that's why it's a weather-aware day. There's a lot more certainty to a line of showers and thunderstorms tomorrow morning. Right around daybreak, it does dry up in the afternoon. There's more rain and storm chances later in the week. Overall trends and temperatures remaining in the upper 60s to as high as the upper 70s. Gary?
Eric, thanks. The rain doesn't matter indoors, does it, Mark?
Forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis. Absolutely gorgeously warm day today. I know we had some showers earlier, but wow, this morning was great.
Yeah, and we're getting into this warm, humid type of weather pattern. The storms that did develop today really just intensified to the south of us, and they're still going on tonight across downstate New York into the Atlantic Ocean. But again, locally, things look pretty quiet. It's going to be another warm night tonight. Boy, things have changed in just a short period of time. We do run the risk for some thunderstorms tomorrow. The severe weather risk is very low. We're not expecting anything significant. We could see a few rumbles of thunder tomorrow morning, but I don't expect very much activity and not much in terms of strong weather. Live look at the Yorkville Battery Stern Tracker 2 Doppler radar. It looks quiet. Temperature of 60 degrees, mostly clear skies. Dew point 50, so it's come down a little bit. We're in the wake of a cold front, but we're not going to see too much of a change in the air tomorrow. It's mild, it's dry overnight. Another round of rain arrives early tomorrow. This could produce a few rumbles of thunder, but that should be about it. Another chance for storms here as we head into Thursday, as well as showers Friday. It's mostly cloudy tonight. Temperatures will drop into the mid-50s. Again, we are tracking some unsettled weather over the next couple of days, along with a continuation of the warmth. Look at the forecasts coming up. Jason, back to you.
Bill, thank you. We cover many criminal.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis.
Good evening. Welcome back. We're taking a live look in downtown Utica. It is a mostly cloudy night, and it is pretty warm out there. Things are looking much quieter. We did have a couple of showers, a few downpours earlier this afternoon. Everything has moved to the south. Severe weather threat is over, and it looks like our next chance of rain will be very early tomorrow morning. Severe weather risk tomorrow is very low. We're not expecting any strong storms in our area. We will get some locally heavy rain and maybe some rumbles of thunder. But I think those storms will be the typical kind here in central New York. Beautiful sunset. This is from Fred Alsanti taking over Utica. You can see the gorgeous colors and vivid bright colors here. Also, take a look at this. This was filmed today by Jim along Delta Lake. Those are jet skis. Yes, jet skis. A little cold to be out in the water, but you know what? It looks like they're having fun. Too soon? Not for them. It is fun to see people getting out and enjoying life. Looking at temperatures near 60 degrees. Currently, it is colder to the north. Look at Watertown, 46. You've got a breeze off of Lake Ontario. Temperatures tonight will get into the mid-50s. It will feel more like a late spring to early summer night. The weather looks fairly quiet. We do have some clearing that is moving in from the west, but the next area of rain moves in from Michigan. This thunderstorm complex will make its way into central New York tonight, and by the time it gets here, it's going to be much, much weaker. And so it does produce some rain. The rain will be widespread. It'll be in the morning, looking at about a half an inch of rainfall to 3/4 of an inch of rain. The rest of the day looks relatively quiet. Passing shower in the afternoon. We get some breaks of sunshine. Temperatures make their way into the 70s. Tomorrow night, the weather looks relatively quiet. We do this again as we are in this unsettled weather pattern with this stationary front nearby. So more scattered storms Thursday, showers Friday. The weather really doesn't change until we head into the weekend. A few thunderstorms are possible late tonight, low 55. Tomorrow, we're going to have a passing storm in the afternoon, but it's another warm and somewhat humid day with a high of 78. Storm Tracker 2 7-day forecast. Showers Friday, 68. Saturday, we're warm, mostly cloudy, 75. A strong cold front arrives Saturday night. This is going to knock the temperature down. We'll be in the 50s and windy on Sunday, and then cold. In fact, cold enough for snow showers Monday, 38. We're back to 50 and sunny weather on Tuesday. We'll be right back.
Forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis. Warm out there today, again tomorrow, and we dodged a lot of the heavy storms, didn't we?
Yeah, we did get some storms, but they weren't really all that strong. The storms are now to the south. Things are looking pretty quiet. The next round is moving in. This comes from Michigan, where it's looking at some pretty violent storms this evening. These will weaken a lot by the time they move east. So that'll be our next chance of rain. That arrives early tomorrow morning, earlier I should say, between about 5 to 7 a.m. That will produce some thunder, some lightning, and some gusty winds. But in terms of severe weather, not a huge risk for severe weather locally. We're looking at things, we're looking at dry conditions across the area tonight. And it's a pretty mild night. Temperature of 58 degrees, clear skies for now. Clouds will be rolling in as we head throughout the night. Our next chance of rain again early tomorrow morning. A few scattered thunderstorms in the forecast that continue into Thursday and Friday. The weather stays warm this week, but we do have some big changes ahead. Got to look at the forecast coming up. James, back to you.
Bill, thank you. Continuing coverage now of a credible shoot.
The WKTV Tower Cam is brought to you by the Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. From Central New York's most dependable weather team, here's Chief Meteorologist Bill Curtis.
Good evening. Pretty quiet night across central New York after dealing with a few thunderstorms earlier today. And we're looking at clear skies and a pretty warm night. Temperatures in the 50s this evening. We do run the risk for some storms tomorrow. I don't expect severe weather, although based on what I'm seeing on the radar to the west, the storms that do come in tomorrow morning could be an early wake-up call for some of us. Thunder, lightning, heavy rain, and some gusty winds. But the risk for severe weather looks marginal here across central New York. Beautiful sunset taken this evening by Fred Asante in Utica. Look at the vibrant colors here, and it's also neat to see more of the sky this time of the year because the leaves are still off the trees. Check this out. Jet skiers spotted today on Delta Lake. Not wasting any time getting ready for summer here. Boy, that water is cold. You got to be careful here, but nice to see people heading out and having some fun. We are tracking temperatures in the 50s this evening. Again, temperatures will hold steady here throughout most of tonight. I'm watching the next complex of storms. This area of storms is expected to move east, and it will weaken a lot. By the time it arrives here, it produces rain, but if there's anything left over, it could bring some rumbles of thunder to central New York. The timing of this would be early in the morning, thinking 5 to 7 a.m., just in time for the morning commute. Some downpours, gusty winds are possible. This moves to the east. We should get a chance to clear out tomorrow afternoon. We should get some sunshine. Pretty nice day. Temperatures in the 70s. A bit humid too. Slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon. Tomorrow night, a few scattered showers. On Thursday, more of the same. We've got this stalled front nearby, and that could produce a few thunderstorms in the afternoon. Temperatures once again very warm with highs in the mid-70s. Weather starts to cool down heading into Friday. Rainfall announced. This is for tomorrow. We're thinking about a half an inch of rain. Could get on the higher side of that, maybe a half an inch to 2/3 of an inch of rain as that weather complex moves in from the west. Storms late tonight, 55 for the overnight low. Tomorrow, storms in the morning will dry out. Could see an isolated storm in the afternoon, but again, I think most of Wednesday is dry and warm. Highs in the mid-70s. Thursday, scattered storms. Friday, slightly cooler, a few showers, 68. Saturday looks dry, and then a strong cold front arrives. We're in the mid-70s Saturday, into the mid-50s Sunday. Cold enough for snow showers Monday. A high of only 38. We're back to 50 by Tuesday. We'll be right back.